Hey Scrappers, it's Vanessa here with my next layout for the Sketch Inspired series, and you will have seen the sketch at the beginning of the video and it will pop up here in just a moment on the screen. So the sketch I am using today is actually a digital template, and so I will have the link to the website down below as well. It's a great resource for finding sketches. I love their sketches, and I usually will check there if I want to use a sketch for a layout. And I don't do quite as much mixed media. There's a lot of mixed media in the background of this. I end up using a piece of pattern paper for a background, so I don't do a whole lot of mixed media. However, I am starting out here with some stamps, and I have a couple of different stamps here. I think that scalloped stamp that I used at the beginning was a old My Mind's Eye, I believe, stamp. And so I'm going to actually fussy cut that scallop out. And then this tag or tab kind of stamp that I just tried to stamp there, it was not, you couldn't actually read the words. I think it actually said something like smiles all around, but it really did not stamp clearly at all. It's not the best quality stamp, I don't think, that one. So I just used a different one, and I think it was an Amy Tan one that says the word love. So that is going to be some of the stamping that I'm going to do. And then, like I said, I am not going to do quite as much mixed media to the background of my page. I am going to add some stamping, however, with some Evergreen Bow Distress Oxide ink. So I have this text. It's sort of like a messy script text stamp, and so I'm just going to stamp that here in the background, not looking for it to be perfectly stamped. It's supposed to look sort of weathered and distressed, and so that stamp is perfect for that. And then the next stamp that I'm grabbing here is just a square, and it's sort of like just a grid pattern, but it's not a perfectly, it's like a line, a hand-drawn sketchy sort of grid, and so I'm using that. Again, I'm just doing this to get some texture in the background, and for that one I used Catherine Pooler, and I cannot remember what color it was. I'm trying to see if I still have it on my desk, and I don't. If you want to know the color, just let me know and I will get that for you. Now, I did have some Juniper Mist color from Catherine Pooler, and then I took a different stamp that is sort of a doily type pattern, and I stamped that in amongst my background. So a lot of this gets covered up, but again, I wanted to have sort of that without doing true mixed media of like taking out paints and stencils and things like that. I wanted to add something to the background that would not take a long time to dry. So doing the stamping gave me sort of that textural element that I needed for the background. And then I'm just going to add some splatters here with this Glorious Day vibes from Shimmers, and just add that to the background and set it off to the side to dry. So that way it doesn't actually take that long, and I can get my layout done without having to wait a huge amount of time for mixed media to dry. That's probably why I don't do a ton of heavy mixed media, is because I typically don't have a ton of time to scrapbook, and so for me, if I can add something to my background without it taking forever to dry, that is usually what I will opt for. So I'm definitely probably, I would say, the lazy kind of mixed media, in that I don't often gesso and I don't often use a ton of wet medium, so that I can move on with my layout before, and not have to wait a super long time for things to dry. Now, while I was talking, I am just taking the two photos that I'm going to use for this layout, and I think I only end up using two. I will admit it has been a little while since I created this layout, but I'm fairly certain that I end up only using two photos on this page, and they are of my kiddos and Chip and Dale, and this is from the Garden Grill restaurant in Epcot. So if you've ever gone to this restaurant, it's a sort of a family meal sit down. We actually went for breakfast, and the restaurant rotates, and so during your eating, or like while you're eating. Chip and Dale, I believe it's Pluto and Mickey, all come around to your table, and you can take pictures, and they interact with the kids and things like that. And so it is one of our favorites. I actually really love that restaurant. The food is always good, and it's sort of all you can eat in family style, so they bring it to your table and you just kind of pick and choose what you want. And so I snap these pictures of my kiddos, who are really they consider themselves too old for the characters, and so going to a breakfast like this is the one time that they'll interact with them, because we won't actually stop and get pictures with the characters most of the time anymore. And so I was able to get these pictures while we were at breakfast. Now, as you can see, while I was talking about the photos, I have gone ahead and put all of my pattern papers down in the background. Everything that I'm using for this is from my How to Kill a Kit with Style for the month of February. So I pulled out bits and pieces. I kept to sort of the yellows and the blues and sort of that teal green kind of color for the embellishments that are going to go on this layout. And I'm just building out my embellishment clusters. I have those stamped images that you saw at the beginning of the video. I did fussy cut those, and those are going to go on the layout as well. I have some pattern papers with the stars, and then that wood grain 6x6. Those are all going to be stacked up there behind my photos to give me that element of those layers that you see in the sketch. I also added an additional embellishment cluster, which was originally going to be at the bottom there. You saw me build it with that camera. I felt like it was a little too large and drew too much attention with that large camera down at the bottom. So I did eliminate that from the bottom and decided to go with a third embellishment cluster on the top of the photos instead. And I just pulled different elements and took away that camera and created that embellishment cluster at the top. I glued all of this down off camera, and I did take that entire photo cluster and everything, and I lifted it up on some fun foam or some dimensional adhesive so that I could just add a little bit of lift, because a lot of this is paper elements on the page. Now, I did add a few of these little blue gems in amongst my clusters, and now I am working on my title. And my title is using up a few different word thickers, and a few different fonts are going to go on this page. And I basically just titled it very simply Fun Times with Chip and Dale. So it allowed me to not only use up some thickers that were almost completely, I can't make any more words from, but it also allowed me to use multiple fonts and colors on this title. So I really love that. This thicker that you see me putting down right now is actually, I am just about to the end where I can't spell anything else with that. So it was really nice to get those used up. Those are very old, I think, Dear Lizzie thickers from like years ago. So I do fuss around with my title here just a little bit and kind of shimmy around a bit where the placement of these letters go. I wanted them to land completely on that star paper. And I know on camera it's a little hard to see that Dale, or the word Dale at the end, but you can actually see it really well in person. The still photos are going to come up here in the end, and I do believe that once I sort of play around with this title a bit, that is pretty much going to call it good for this. Here are the still photos, and with that, guys, I will catch you on the next one. If you have any comments or questions, please make sure you leave them down below and I will get back to you. And so with that, guys, I will catch you on the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.